Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio.
All right, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here, and thank you very much for your patience this morning. My name is Mark Hancock, and I'm the National President of the Canadian Union of Public Employees. I'm here with our National Secretary-Treasurer, Candice Rennick, Fred Hahn, the Ontario Division President, and many other CUPE leaders from all across the country. To start with, you can see there's a big crowd of folks up here with me, and I'd like to introduce a few of my friends from the Labour movement who have joined me today. We have leadership from the Canadian Labour Congress, the Ontario Federation of Labour, ATU Canada, the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association, the Ontario Secondary Schools Teacher Federation, the AEFO, United Steelworkers, UFCW, Unifor, the Ontario Building Trades, the United Association of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, the Sheet Metal Workers, Unite Here, IATSE, the National Union of Public and General Employees, the Public Service Alliance of Canada, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, the Ontario Nurses Association, SEIU Healthcare, the Canadian Office and Professional Employees Union, the Society of United Professionals, the Toronto and York Regional Labour Council, and my friends, today, together, we represent millions of private and public sector workers all across the country. This is an unprecedented gathering of labor leaders because the attack against worker rights that we've seen from this government, the attack on the rights of all Canadians, which has been unprecedented. Bill 28 was a direct threat to workers' rights and to the charter rights of all Canadians. It invoked the notwithstanding clause to undermine some of our most fundamental rights. That regressive attack on workers united the labor movement like never before. I am so proud of CUPE's frontline education workers, 70% of whom are women, and that they stood firm. They went out on a political protest. They brought their message and their anger to more than 100 sites across this province. They took on the Ford government, and the government blinked. This morning, Doug Ford announced that he would rescind Bill 28. I know there might be a little bit of doubt about that, but we have it confirmed. He will rescind Bill 28. And that's a credit to the power of our members and workers and organized labor here in Ontario and all across Canada. We've demonstrated the power of public sector and private sector solidarity, and we've shown that when our rights are under attack, our movement is strong and that we will stand up for each other. I'm so grateful for the incredible support and solidarity of our members all across this country. We've been receiving messages all week. But let's be clear, we're not done yet. There are 55,000 education workers here in Ontario who still need a fair deal that helps them make ends meet. And we are going to stand with them until they get a deal that works for them and their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, and I don't have an exciting costume for you today, but here I am. I want to thank every single labor leader who is here today, but most importantly, the labor leaders who are not here with us today, those workers who are currently on the demonstration lines. Education workers, my colleagues, are so very grateful for the solidarity and support everyone has shown. Our team never left the table. Our goal has been, and it remains, to get a fair deal that respects workers, students, and families. We listened to the Premier's announcement today, and like many of you, we were very confused. A lot confused, and Colin, shout out to the questions, because the delay, and I want to thank you all for your patience, was to receive in writing the Premier's intent. We are no longer in a world that we can go without having things in writing. We have received and can confirm that the Premier will introduce and support legislation that will repeal Bill 28 in its entirety. And this bill will be repealed in a manner that ensures that the legislation will be deemed that it was never a law in Ontario in the first place. As a gesture of good faith to this announcement, CUPE OSPCU will be collapsing our protest sites starting tomorrow. We hope that this gesture is met with the same good faith by this government in a new proposal at the bargaining table as soon as possible. And I will be clear, we're here waiting right now. The time is ticking. Let's not forget why this all started. This started because the Ford government didn't want to pay workers, the lowest paid education workers in this province, a living wage. This started because we know the reality in our schools. They're anything but normal and stable due to constant underfunding and lack of investments in the direct services students need to be safe and successful. This started because education workers have been overlooked, underappreciated, and legislated into poverty. This started because coworkers, the vast majority of whom are women, we realized our power and we decided to stand up and fight back. These workers, these custodians, early childhood educators, EAs, clerical workers, lunchroom supervisors, tradespeople, maintenance, and so many more, deserve a deal that has been freely negotiated, that keeps them out of poverty and allows them to meet the needs of their students. It's the work of my friends and colleagues that repealed this bill, and it is unprecedented. The organization of members moved the government to this place, and the organization and mobilization of members will ensure a real deal is achieved at the table now that this draconian legislation has been removed. And I want to take a moment to speak directly to Ontario education workers, my co-workers and our members. We have our bargaining rights back. And I am as committed as I've ever been to getting a deal that works for each and every one of you. You led this movement that brought labor unions together with parents and concerned Canadians everywhere. You led this movement that showed the people of Ontario that you can stand up to a bully, look them in the eye, and say, hell no, not today. And I want to say I am so very proud of every single one of you. And we're going to be going back to that bargaining table to continue the fight. Thank you.
My name is Bea Bruske, and I'm the president of the Canadian Labour Congress. The Canadian Labour Congress brings together over 3 million workers in private and public sector areas right across this country. We represent those folks who keep our economy going day in and day out. We play a critical role in Canada's economy. We are the unionized workers who are keeping this country running. Last week, Premier Ford made a very dangerous decision. He rammed through a law that would have grossly rammed through an unfair collective agreement on the lowest paid education workers in this province. He also wanted to strip away legal protections that Canadian workers have had for many, many decades. The right to strike is an absolutely essential part of free and fair collective bargaining. And under no circumstances will Canada's unions allow any premier to take that right away. Premier Ford did this when he knew that our economy is in peril. He did this when he knew that schools, children, parents, grandparents, and employers would be scrambling by trying to implement this kind of a bill. He knew that every single workplace would be impacted at a time when our economy and the people of this province cannot withstand another blow. I'm glad that Premier Ford made the right decision this morning and walked back this dangerous and reckless legislation. But now that he's put his promise in writing, I'm asking him to put his money where his mouth is and actually get to the bargaining table and negotiate a fair deal. Let's be clear, Premier Ford grossly overreached, and the support from the workers, from the very workers that CUPE represents in this game, those 55,000 courageous workers who stood up and said, no way, not today, was matched by the thousands and millions of workers across this country coming together and saying, hell no, not going to happen today. And we appreciate that now is the time to get back to that bargaining table, and let there be no mistake. Canada's unions are ready to come back and rally once again and do whatever it takes to get this done.
Hi, my name is Karen Brown. I'm president of the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario. On behalf of ETFO and the 83,000 members we represent, I'd like to thank CUPE National for inviting me here to be with you all today. We stand together, united in solidarity, and fueled by the collective power of our members, the workers of Ontario. Let there be no doubt that we will not stand by and watch this government strip away our constitutionally protected rights because they want to avoid the inconvenience of negotiations. Never, not here, not in Ontario. We will not stand by and let that happen. The draconian legislation the Ford government passed to impose collective agreements on CUPE and remove their charter rights to free and fair collective bargaining and to strike was an unprecedented attack on collective bargaining rights, the likes of which we've never seen in the Canadian history. Rest assured, we, our members, my colleagues, the people of Ontario, we will hold Premier Ford to his word to rescind Bill 28. We stand in steadfast solidarity with CUPE. You can count on us. You can count on ETFO. Solidarity.
Well, this is as serious as it gets. I'm Lana Payne, and I'm the National President of Unifor. We represent 315,000 workers across this country, most of whom work in the private sector. First, let me start by congratulating CUPE education workers today for their heart, for their courage, and their resolve. They're the reason we're all here. And to Laura Walton for her fierce and relentless leadership. To be very clear, the bargaining table is the only place where this will be settled. And the priority now is to get these workers a fair and negotiated collective agreement. Half of Unifor's members live and work here in Ontario. Bill 28, as you've already heard, represents an outrageous and unprecedented attack on workers' rights and trade union freedoms. And as a labor movement, we were prepared to respond with an unprecedented response. Because if fundamental rights can be taken away from public sector workers without recourse, no one's rights are safe. There is no question that this same tactic could have been used here again in Ontario and in other provinces. You can be sure that other Conservative premiers were watching this very closely. Workers made it clear that they will not tolerate the weaponizing of the notwithstanding clause to strip away our charter rights. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Unifor members were and are prepared to vigorously oppose this law. Last evening, our National Executive Board voted unanimously to take whatever action was needed to defeat Bill 28. And I'm very proud of their solidarity with their sisters and brothers, education workers, CUPE members. We know the responsibility we have as union leaders and as trade unionists to protect the rights of today's workers and the workers of tomorrow. I'm pleased to see that the Premier has made this commitment to revoke the legislation. The next step is for that to happen, and then a fair collective agreement for CUPE members. To CUPE members, all workers on demonstration lines today, Unifor will be with you every single step of the way until you win. Solidarity.
Hello, everyone. I'm JP Hornick, president of OPSU-CEFPO, the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, and the largest public service union in Ontario. And while I'm pleased to hear the promise from the Ford government that Bill 28 is being repealed, our 180,000 members of OPSU are not standing down. We are standing by. We will make sure that promise is made to stick. OPSU-CEFPO members are in this fight with the CUPE education workers, with all workers, until a fair deal is reached for CUPE workers, for our own education workers, for teachers, and for workers across this province, including our comrades in ATU. This is exactly the moment that we are being called upon to stand up for each other, with each other, to speak out, to not settle down, to stand for what's right, and to consciously and deliberately walk our solidarity as you are seeing here today. I want to take a moment to just note the historical importance of where we are. When you have the largest private sector union in Canada standing with the largest public sector unions in Ontario and saying we will fight together for all workers, the power of this cannot be overstated. Bill 28 was a direct attack on unions. A union exists to harness the collective energy and power of workers so that they can stand together to better their working conditions. But it was also an attack on the foundations of democracy, the freedom of association and the freedom of expression. All Ontarians should be terrified of this abuse of our charter rights. And all Ontarians know that they should be joining Labour in this moment to hold the Ford government accountable. This government will continue to try and divide and conquer us, as we saw in their press conference today, as education workers, as parents, as private versus public sector, as environmentalists, as poverty activists, at all of the people that are being targeted in this legislation are the ones who are the majority. We are where the power of this province resides. So while first they are coming for education workers, we need to let them know, and we need to stand up and stand here together for as long as this fight takes to get them a fair and freely bargained deal, that when you come for one of us, you come for all of us. The Ford government may not know what they started, but I know that as trade unionists, we will finish it. And I know that workers, united, will shut this province down whenever we need to.
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. please contact us at depictions.media for more information.